1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ages of all ages, welcome to Couch Guy Sports Podcast, episode 245. It is Thursday, March 10th, one of the greatest days in sports history right now for all fans across the industry. With me tonight, no Jared Scali, unfortunately, last-minute emergency that happened to him. However, CEO and president of Couch Guy Sports, Alan Nahigian, is here joining us tonight. Your host, Diego Galvis, and you might also be seeing on the screen that we have a special guest, one of my absolute favorite Twitter follows, and should be one of your absolute Twitter follows as well, as she's an incredible mind in baseball. You might have heard her previously from the Locked On Red Sox podcast. Her name is Gabrielle Starr. Gabrielle, welcome to Couch Guy Sports Podcast. It's a pleasure having you. How are you doing tonight?
That was the nicest intro. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so happy to be here. I'm like very adrenaline-y, which is not a word, but I'm like, I think we're all kind of jittery and
yes,
counts. The word counts.
Eating entire pizzas, just like running around our apartments, going crazy. Baseball.
Saying sorry every 2 seconds. Just the usual.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, my shirt says it for me. So,
There you go.
There we go. Later on this show as well, we should be seeing another person join us. I will let curiosity come in the way and keep you guys, entertained with the show tonight. Mainly what we will be talking about, of course, will be baseball is back, but we will also be talking about some potential moves that we could see our own home base organization, the Red Sox, be making during the free agency window that we have, the somewhat free agency window that we have before opening day. Our additional guest is actually waiting for us, so I'm going to let him in right now, and we'll get the show rolling.
Might want to tell him we're recording because he might say something very off the wall. That would be on brand for this guest.
That would be on brand. So before he comes on, we'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is special guest that we were waiting to hop on the episode of Couch Guy Sports Podcast, episode 245. Is finally on with us. His name is Sam Edwards. You might have heard his voice earlier today on Twitter as he was on the spaces that Ben Porter was running, along with some great special guests that he joined. Might have heard him from Around the Diamond podcast, which is also presented to you by Couch Guy Sports, just like Couch Guy Sports Podcast is. Sam, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm at the highest point I think I've ever been in my life. Maybe besides 2018, 2013. I am elated. And I am just so unbelievably excited for this season. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And pleasure having you on, Sam, as always. So obviously the feeling around the room is we're all extremely happy, historic, whatever words you want to use, content, whatever else you want to use to describe the feeling today. One of the greatest days in sports history, as I said earlier on the recording. Finally, after 99 days of waiting, by the second longest lockout in MLB history has finally come to its conclusion as the MLB and MLBPA come to an agreement, which we'll get into the details in just a few short minutes. Before we proceed with that, just one general question. Today kind of started to feel like it was doomsday for MLB. What was your feeling as the day went on and before this announcement was finally made around, I think it was around 3 p.m. or so that it came out?
Yeah.
What was your general feeling? I'll start off with Gabrielle, then we'll go over to Al and then Sam.
It was starting to feel like the way, Wednesday felt? Today's already Thursday? Wow.
Today's already Thursday. I know. It's been a long week.
It's been a really long week, and I thought it was Wednesday. It's starting to feel like the deadline that we had, yesterday, and the deadline we had last week, where, Major League Baseball introducing or changing things kind of at the 11th hour and being like, well, we have to have this change, or else, basically creating these roadblocks. It felt like they did not want to get a deal done. They're trying to turn the tables against the players, sway public opinion away from the players, because there was an overwhelming amount of support for the players throughout the last 3+ months. And, really, I do think that made a difference, because for the first time in the history of MLB work stoppages, the players had social media where they could actually directly address fans. Never had that before. Even in the 90s with the strike, you could talk to a reporter, but it's still a middleman reporting for you, not just Max Scherzer tweeting, I was in Jupiter, this is what happened. So, today started to feel like a repeat of the last two deadlines, quote unquote, that MLB set. And I was really starting to be like, wow, I cannot believe I fell for this again. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way, because it's kind of like Lucy with the football and Charlie Brown, or, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. Like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Like, I really thought it was getting to a point where it's like, well, we all should know better by now, because they've already yanked away the football like 3 times so far. So when it actually finally happened, I kind of sat on my couch in shock and was like shaking a little bit. Like, I don't know what to do. I've had a lot of coffee. It's like in 2020 when baseball finally came back in like late July. And by then we were all just used to like there not being baseball. Kind of started to feel like we were never going to have baseball again. Like, I got used to writing about the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. And now I'm like, wait, what is a trade proposal? I don't remember how to do this. So that's where I'm at. It's really confusing.
Perfect. Al, what about you, sir?
All right. How do I put this nicely? Let me think.
It's a really bad way to start off.
The MLB owners are scumbags. They are big time scumbags. I don't care what anybody says. The owners were the whole reason, and I don't care what anybody else says, the owners were the reason that this deal didn't get done sooner. The players want what the players want. They want to get paid. They wanted certain things changed. Great. Why did it take 99 days for this to happen? I'm glad it's done. Don't get me wrong. Baseball's happening. It's great. It's my number one sport. Sam's number one sport. Gabrielle, sounds like it's your number one sport. Diego, I know you like baseball, but I know, anyways, we're all happy about it, right? We're all happy about the fact that it's here, but it felt like it was going to be, like Gabrielle was saying, it just felt like, all right, yeah, it seems like there's a little bit of something going on. It seems like, okay, maybe something will happen, but I'm like, I don't believe anything until it's finalized. By the way, how funny was it that Jeff Passan's Twitter account got hacked at 10, 11 a.m. in the morning when he's trying to break the news? Now, if this happened to Bob Nightingale, it'd be even funnier, because he's just dead wrong all the time. But the fact that Jeff Passan, the number one, I would say 1 and 1A with him and Ken
I thought it was a conspiracy. I thought MLB paid to have him hacked so that he couldn't like report the end of the lockout. I legit thought, I was like, they locked him out of his account so he can't end the lockout. Like, that's where my brain
would have been the perfect ending.
99 days into that, I'm like, this is something that would happen. MLB would pay to keep the lockout going by locking Passan out of his Twitter. But I just have to point out, you mentioned that, it took them 99 days. And like, yeah, like screw the owners, of course. Subtract the 43 days that MLB did not reach out to the players after locking them out.
Yep. From December to February. Yep.
Like, this could have been done, 54? So 54 days ago.
It could have been done before Christmas. Realistically,
it should have been done before a lockout even began. But we knew from the beginning that MLB was going to lock out the players, and it was never defensive. It was always, we are locking you out so we can break your union and continue putting our boots on your neck. That's always what this was going to be. There was never going to be negotiations before the expiration of the CBA. There was never going to be like, we can play under the expired CBA and the players won't go on strike because it's a good faith. There was nothing good faith about this. This has been brewing for like 2 years. We all knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen in 2020 when they were negotiating the return from the pandemic for the 60-game season. And everyone was like, this is a bad omen of what is going to happen in 2021. And we just watched it play out, and it was worse than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, it was bad. And it was a situation where, like you said, should have been done in December before Christmas, get it done. So that way the players can go through a regular off season, go to spring training in mid-February, right after the Super Bowl, pretty much after the Super Bowl is done, and then be ready to roll in late March into early April. At least they're getting a spring training. The silver lining here, they're getting their spring training. We're starting baseball in early April, a little bit later, April 7th, which is fine. And of course, the Red Sox are opening up in the Bronx against the Yankees, and they are going to shove it to Garrett Cole the first game. And Chris Sale is pitching 7 shutout innings. You heard it here first.
I can't wait to see Rafael
like
Devers
that.
and Kike homer off of Garrett Cole
Kike
again.
is going on first pitch.
Kike is going to step up to the plate, and Garrett Cole is going to shit his pants in a wild card PTSD episode. He's just going to fall apart on the mound, and all that's going to be left is just a pile of spider tack and a baseball mitt.
Hey guys, why can't I throw it by anybody anymore? Because he sounds literally like Kermit the Frog when he speaks. It's hilarious.
Oh my God.
Can we just talk about really quickly the fact that the Yankees and the Mets and the Astros and the Cardinals were the 4 teams that voted against a deal today?
You're
Why
shocked
are we
by
not
that?
surprised?
So every other team now has a moral obligation to the world of baseball to destroy those 4 teams every single day for 162 games. That is like the collective goal of the other 26 teams now, is to just demolish those teams, because that's player reps.
Not going to lie. I agree with you on the Cardinals. I agree with you on the Astros. I agree with you on the Yankees. The Mets, I want to see do well. They got Max Scherzer in the offseason. I want to see them
but Scherzer was the guy
fight.
that was there, and was saying, don't. It was Boris clients that were the ones being like, we are voting against. And I'm pretty sure Scherzer is a Boris client, which really bums me out, because throughout all of this, I was like, Max Scherzer is the noble big man who's like out there fronting for the not the nobodies, but like the over 50% of players that make the major league minimum, who are not big names like him, not making $40 million a year. Like, I was like, oh, it's so great that like he's actually out there fighting for these guys. Like, none of this affects him. He's making $40 million. Like, he's set. He's already set. He's Max Scherzer. He's been there for over a decade. He's a multi-millionaire. Like, he's fine. He wasn't out there for him. And then today I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? Are you kidding me? But I think it's a little bit Scott Boras just whispering in his ear, which sucks.
Well, it's Scott Boras. I mean, who isn't represented by Scott Boras, and who isn't going to be making that money when you have Scott Boras as an agent?
All right, so let me get the space over to Sam, so he
I want to hear Sam.
So he can give us his takes on how.
No, you're good.
All good.
I love the
I like
rants,
the conversation.
Man.
I like it.
See,
Keep it going.
Because this is the best time, because every baseball fan can band together and just be passionate about this.
Yeah.
And, majority, I mean, you got those Twitter accounts that are trying to get attention saying, I stand with the owners, all that bullcrap. But I will say, I think the biggest winner here was probably that NFT company that did hack Jeff Passan. I feel like they, what geniuses, what geniuses to make this move on this day? Man, what a move. What a power move right there. I love it. I'd love to see it. Get your bag, whatever you want. I don't even know what the company was, so good luck for them, I guess. I don't know. But I was still under the impression that I thought May 1st was going to be. May 1st was my optimistic kind of point of view for what I thought opening day was going to be. I was really convinced that the owners were not going to budge at all, which props to them. They did budge, so thank goodness. They're going to say we're able to figure out this stupid international draft. It's like, do we have to figure out this now? Is that important? Like, do we have to figure out this now? Like, it felt like they just threw it in last minute. We knew they wanted it, but it was never included in the other deals. Well, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Can we not take a little bit of time? And as soon as they rejected the players' offer to, what was it? It was like, wait till... if we don't have a deal by like November, if we haven't figured out the international draft by like,
which was their deal the day before, and then they rejected it because Manfred did not want to accept a deal from the players, which is like the smallest dick energy of like, I'm not going to accept my own deal because it came from you. Like, it's literally your deal. It's like if someone took your car and then tried to give it back to you and you were like, I don't want it because I don't like you. It's like, it's your car. Like, what?
The entire time, the attitude I was getting from the MLB was, it was like this strong arming, like, hey, no, we know what you need. We're gonna force you into the deal that we want, basically. And that's what they're used to getting. It's like the bully on the playground that is so used to getting what they want that as soon as they face opposition, it was like They were doing like every measure they could, every PR move they could to pull this out. Oh, we're trying to negotiate every single day. They're not moving at all. They're negotiating every single day. What are they talking about? Like nothing moved until, the past couple of days. Like nothing's moving. They're creating deadlines. It's all this bullcrap, all this fake smoke and mirrors.
Honestly,
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I don't think the league would have ever accepted an offer from the players, like for real.
Yeah.
And the fact that the players, like, I know it's symbolic, but it was very important to Major League Baseball that the players would accept their proposal and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Because it's like a power thing. Literally, like it has to be like, we are the employer, you're the employee, and no matter what concessions are made on either side, and in fairness, there were at the end concessions made on both sides, not a ton, but enough to get us here.
Right.
It was a huge sticking point that Manfred, and we saw it with the international draft thing, Manfred wouldn't accept a recycled deal that originally came from his side because it was being reproposed by the players' side. They had to accept the league's deal. Otherwise, this was like, and that, because at the end of the day, the league can go around being like, you know what, we got them to accept our deal. And like, when things are written about this in baseball books in the future, it will say on March 10th, 2022, the players' side accepted the league's deal. And that's what they want. They want that power. They wanted that power play, as symbolic as it is.
Rob Manfred.
And this whole entire thing like ties into the rhetoric that we were hearing from Twitter chatter of people that don't really follow baseball closely, or at least follow it enough to educate themselves before they opinionate in regards to, well, the players are starting to ask for a little too much. They're starting to be a little bit of babies. Like, no, the players should be a little bit of babies, because this here, not only does it essentially provide a future for the next 5 years of at least having some sort of peace and the game actually being fruitful for the next 5 years, but it also entails a big aspect that has been missing from the game for a long while, which is setting the right minimum wage for some of these players that haven't even been in the MLB for 3 years, but that are actual talents in the making and that are just not being paid well enough nor valued to their consensus. So some of the elements that are also part of this deal, and I'll just rattle them off real quick here, just quoting ESPN's Jeff Pazan. One of them is a 45-day window for MLB to implement the rule changes. Obviously, 45 days is really not all that much. Among the rule changes, which I thought was really cool, is now a pitch clock, which kind of necessary at this point. Ban on shifts and large bases in the 2023 season, which I still don't get the whole argument behind the large bases. Maybe I just haven't done my research well enough, nor educated myself well enough, but I take it for what it is. One that I thought was hugely necessary at this point, which was the National League adopting the designated hitter position. I think at this point, it just needed to be done, get with the days at this point. A draft lottery implemented with the intent of discouraging tanking, which goes back to transparency from some organizations that have done this for quite a long time, just to finally get pieces going. Draft pick inducements to discourage service time manipulation, and also limiting the number of times a player can be optioned to the minor leagues in one season, which is also a huge sign of, again, promising a bright future for the game. Real quick, what are some of your guys' thoughts on these additional elements of the deal? Just, whether you agree with the deal or whether you think that there's far more that still needs to be done after this agreement. Anybody go first?
I would like to clarify, these rules are not being implemented yet.
No.
These are most likely going to be agreed upon for 2023. Exactly.
There's until 6 p.m. tomorrow to rectify anything else that needs to be rectified. So just pointing that out as well out there.
Yeah. And then also the 45-day thing is it's 45 days before the start of the season, which I also
Exactly.
like. When I first heard it, I was like, 45 days period? Like, so they can just freaking do it? I don't know. They've already been doing whatever they want. So like, what's the difference, you know? But thank goodness it's like 45 days before the season starts. So like, at least there's some, you know, I don't know, credibility. They're respecting the players in some way. I don't know. I don't know. The shift, I'm kind of, I wouldn't want to ban the shift. I don't really think it's something that should be banned. I don't think it's like making anybody's career, you know, in jeopardy or anything. Joey Gallo is still crushing balls. I think players are still going to try and do the same thing, which is crush balls over the fence.
200 times too. So
that as well, but that's who's getting paid. You know, that's who's getting paid. It's the guys that get on base and the guys that hit bombs. I don't think that's going to change banning the shift or not. Maybe it increases a little bit of action, which I'm fine with. Like I don't hate it, but I could go either way. Honestly, the bigger bases is a little odd. They said it was to save from injury or something like that. I don't know the logistics. I don't play baseball. Okay, I just talk about it in my living room, and I don't know what the bigger base is really. I think it's supposed to encourage stealing or something like that. Once again, if players start getting paid for it, then people are going to start stealing more, and they might ignore the stop sign a little bit more. But either way, it just doesn't make sense in general with sabermetrics, or you know, just calculating that it just doesn't improve your chances of scoring that inning, giving up that chance of getting it out or not. Those are my long-winded thoughts. Al, how are we feeling?
Sam, let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah. Yes.
Gabrielle and Diego, feel free to answer this question too. With the shift,
yeah,
did you tweak the shift in the sense that you say maybe, okay, you can't have all your infielders on the right side with the left-handed hitter. Maybe you have one or two guys over there. Because my view is this, you know, having played the game, you know, at the little league level, high school level, college level, etc. My philosophy as a hitter was I'm trying to hit the ball up the middle. Because once you get the ball past the pitcher with a normal set field, gets by the pitcher, that's going to be a base hit every time. But then if you're shifting, you know, for a left, especially for a left-handed hitter, I was a righty, but for a lefty hitter, you have a guy right up the middle that just fields it, tosses it over like it's nothing, and you should have like 10, 15 more hits in a season. So that to me, you don't have to ban the shift completely, but I feel like if you can tweak it a little bit, I think it's an advantage for the hitters.
I agree.
Yeah. You know,
I
don't know.
I didn't want them to ban it. I want them to limit it. Like, you know, if you have 7 dudes standing in a row, like basically, you know, Red Rover in the middle of
like the Bugs Bunny cartoon where they're just in line, like going
like if you're literally just making like a wall of people so that the baseball can't get through, you know, and it's going to smack into someone's shin instead, like that's absurd. You're taking it too far. But I don't like that every rule change that they made basically on the field for the product is just something that just makes the game like easier. Like, I don't want to see crazy shift, but I do want to see a renewed focus on players taking good at bats, working the count, not striking out 200 plus times in a season. Looking at you, Joey Gallo, like getting on base, beating the shift. You know, Fred Lynn, Red Sox legend, he saw Gallo's comments in The Athletic about the shift, and he's like, they tried to shift on Ted Williams, like as in basically like, bitch, just hit better.
Hit the ball the other way.
Like, I'm not a Major League Baseball player. I haven't played baseball since I was in middle school. So I'm not going to pretend to be like an on-field expert. But what I will say is I don't like that MLB's like, well, instead of just like the cream rising to the top of just learn how to make adjustments in your at-bats, they're like, actually, we're just going to make it easier for you. And it's basically the same thing as MLB being like, oh, well, you know, we're just going to make the ball juice so that people hit more home runs. Like, you're not fixing the problem that you think you are fixing. And the reasoning for that all goes back to the fact that the people who are in charge of baseball do not actually value the game of baseball. And therefore, they are making changes to a product that they do not appreciate, which is basically someone trying to sell you a product while simultaneously admitting that they don't understand or see a value in their own product. And if you don't see a value in what you are selling, it's not going to have the intended effect, because people are going to be like, why should I buy something from you? It's like going to a hair salon and the person doing your hair has terrible hair. Well, why would I want you to cut my hair when your hair looks like this?
And
it all comes back to that.
And who brings the value to the game?
The players.
Bingo. That's what it is. That's what this whole thing is. And that's what I think the owners lost, that kind of mentality in this bidding war. You know, they think that, oh, we're the ones that are paying the players, but it's like, yeah, you're not putting.
You're paying them with the money that they make you.
Right. They're the ones that are filling your stadiums. They're the ones that have the fans go there to buy the hot dogs, to buy the beers, to buy the souvenirs, to buy whatever it is. It's the players that are doing it. Do you really think they're coming to say, oh, Chaim Bloom? And I'm a Chaim Bloom guy. I like Chaim Bloom. I want that on the record. Like, oh, Chaim Bloom, what's he going to do next? Is he going to get that pitcher in the Rule 5 draft? Is he going to get another Garrett Whitlock? Like, no. They're there to watch Xander Bogaerts spin double plays with whoever's going to play second base this year. I don't know if it's Christian Arroyo. They're going to get somebody, whatever. They want to watch Rafael Devers hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th against the Yankees at Fenway and get the crowd rocking. They don't care. Fans do not care about the owners. It's so sickening.
I'm trying to find this thread that I saw. It was this guy basically saying that of like, I love going to the ballpark to see owners. My favorite part of the season is owners. I love watching owners. It's like basically like pretending that he's writing all the things that you love about players, but instead it's like owners and just showing you like how
weird
little
flex to begin with.
Like how little like the owners actually matter basically was his point of like, my favorite part of the ballpark is going and seeing the owners. Like no one says that. That's the point,
Right.
Right. And I just, it makes me a little bit ill that the people who are wealthy enough to own these teams are people who have, aside from like a few, because like we know Steve Cohen, who owns the Mets, like he bought the Mets because he loves baseball. And we know that because he was trying to buy them for years. He literally is like an avid collector of baseball memorabilia. Like he's actually a baseball fan. I don't think you can say that about I'm not going to say about all, but I'm going to say the majority of these owners, they bought, first of all, a lot of them bought teams, over a decade ago. And those teams have skyrocketed in value. Before the Red Sox were bought by John Henry's group, no team, they paid for like, I think they paid $700 million for the Red Sox in like 2001, 2000, whatever. Okay. At the time, that was more than twice what had ever been paid for a team. And now every single team is valued just under or well over $1 billion.
Without them doing anything. They just literally let it go.
The Kansas City Royals were sold for over $1 billion in 2019. And the Kansas City Royals have been irrelevant for, aside from 2015, the majority of the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
No, and it's just like, it's like, what are you doing? Like if the Marlins got bought tomorrow, they would still sell for like $1 billion.
Gabrielle, let's just say the honest truth. You ready for this? And everybody ready for this? The stat people are ruining baseball. They're ruining it. I'm sorry. They're taking away from the pureness of the game. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. I'm sorry.
I would agree with that, but in a different phrasing, which is that there's too much of an emphasis on stats and not enough. And we saw that with the Rays in the 2020 World Series when Cash pulled Snell it's like a self-driving car. I used to work for Tesla, my first job out of college, and we had the autopilot in the Teslas, but every few minutes, or I think it was like every 60 seconds, the wheel of the Tesla would make like a buzzing, like it would kind of vibrate, as in like, put your hands on the wheel to prove to me you are awake and able to drive this car. And if you didn't like do that, it would do it again more, kind of furiously. And if you didn't respond, it would pull over to the side of the road and turn off, because Tesla knew that as great as a self-driving car will be, a human person still needs to be conscious to make those split-second gut decisions that a machine will never be able to make. And it's the same thing with baseball. Kevin Cash relied too much on the analytics. He didn't go with his gut. He pulled Blake Snell. The Rays lost the World Series. And that to me was the biggest proof that analytics have taken too much of a control. I find them interesting, but I also find them alienating, because you basically have to have an advanced statistics degree to feel welcome in the analytics side of baseball. And that is alienating, first of all, to young children, because a child is not going to know what Sierra is. And also just to like regular fans who aren't absurd freaks like me, who spend, 6 hours a day on Baseball Savant. Like that's just not, it's not a welcoming egalitarian environment. Like the NBA does not talk about stats the way that MLB talks about stats. They'll be like, this is Jason Tatum's, second 40+ point game of the week. They're not going to be like, Jason Tatum has a FIP and a WHIP and a WAR and a BWAR and an FWAR and a Sierra
Right.
and a this and a that. It's like, shut the hell up. You sound like
Right.
a dork.
And I'm sorry, Sam. Sam, I'm sorry.
And I'm
I
a
know
dork.
how much you love those stats. And Around the Diamond, great podcast. They break it down. But Sam, I'm sorry. If I have to hear about BABIP or any other tip in the world, I might
love
legitimately
stats,
stop watching.
and it's
baseball.
still too much.
Yeah, okay, here we go. I'm gonna get on my soapbox real quick. First off, my children will know what Sierra is, and I'll make sure of that. Anyways,
When they're two, though, when they're like walking into the ballpark and they're like baby gap clothes, like to see Fenway Park for the first time. Come on.
I don't think.
Sierra,
Let me just say something, okay?
And
yeah,
baby's
right.
first word was FIP.
Get back in the car. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. No. If you can't tell me what Chris Sale's FIP is, I don't want to hear it. No.
I guess I should leave then because I don't know what his FIP is.
I don't.
Yeah, I know. No, me neither.
I know what a FIP is though.
There you go. That's all you need.
Yeah.
So I'll say is, I don't think it's stats that are ruining the game. I think that people that enjoy stats enjoy the game more. I'll say that. I think it's because with a little bit more understanding, you can appreciate things even more than you would without the sabermetrics. I don't really enjoy football or basketball too much. Now, like I liked baseball before I really knew the sabermetrics, but I think that was definitely a huge part of my like growing up as a fan, getting me into the sport more. Now, I'll also say, I think the main problem, and Gabrielle touched on it earlier, they're not fixing the problems that they're supposed to be fixing. I don't think that game needs to be touched, honestly. I don't think it needs to be shortened. I don't think it needs to be sped up. Offense is fine. Pitching is great. All of that. I'm totally fine with it. It is way the game is packaged. First of all, blackouts, obviously, it's a cliche go-to, but whatever. Apple Plus TV, I'm fine with the deal, I guess. I don't know. Will that include blackouts at all? Do we know? I don't even know.
It's just a different set of like certain games will be on that, and then certain games. It's just another revenue stream. And just to point out, that was once again another like shady move by the owners of like Apple announced that at their event, and Apple was like, and MLB was like, dude, be cool. Like I told you, not until we like break our players into submission. Like And did you guys see that tweet where it was like MLB has several new revenue deals pending and they're waiting to announce them until after the lockout is over? It's like, yeah, because they don't want to admit that they have even more money coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I just think that it's packaged wrong. The broadcasting, it's all the same. And I know, it's great and it's nostalgic for all of us that have been fans for a long time. But if you're trying to get new fans, you got to target a different demographic. I don't think, doing Nickelodeon broadcast is the answer to everything. Maybe that would help. I think it would help just target a younger audience. But it's the way the game is being packaged is my main gripe with the sport.
Can I piggyback on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
So I agree 100%. First of all, I have no problem with the stats. I love the stats. I literally like sit on Baseball Reference and like comb through stats. Like I one time was so bored, I looked up Babe Ruth's home runs between like his debut season and like 1929 or something. And it was some insane thing. Like in the 10 years or whatever that 8 years that he was on the Red Sox or whatever, no one else on the Red Sox hit more than 3 home runs in a season. And like the year that he hit 29 home runs, there was like there were like not even 10 total home runs on the rest of the team for the entire year, something crazy like that. I look at that stuff for fun. My issue is the gatekeeping of like, if you don't like the inaccessibility that comes from the analytics of, if you don't understand these things, you're not a real fan or you can't keep up. Like that's where it loses me of like, you can't just simply be an eye test person. You can't be someone who just enjoys going to the ballpark. You can't just enjoy being someone who likes home runs. Like that simple, pure love of baseball is somehow now like not acceptable because you don't do the analytics and the stats too. And that's where it bothers me because I mean, I'm a woman in this industry and I get my fandom tested all the time. I get judged for, having a vagina and liking sports. Like, I don't like gatekeeping. Like if you're like, there's no wrong way to be a fan if it doesn't hurt other people. So if you don't like the stats and you're not hurting other people, then like why, it's fine if you don't like the stats. And that's where it loses me. But for the other part of your, thing, Sam, where you're saying they're fixing all the wrong problems, nothing MLB did on like a fan level in this new CBA changes for fans. If anything, because there's a shorter spring training and, they're changing things around and double headers, et cetera, a lot of teams are going to raise ticket prices now. Plus, inflation is skyrocketing. So you're actually going to see more fans priced out of the ballpark. And it's just, that's the other part where baseball loses me, is people can't afford to take their kids to the ballpark, but they also are blacked out. Now there's another thing they have to pay for to watch games at home. And all of it is like MLB shooting itself in the foot and then asking why it's bleeding. It's like that hot dog meme on Twitter of like, we're all trying to find the guy that did this. It's like, you're the guy that did this. Like, the reason that kids like basketball and football more than baseball is because games start at 8 p.m. and they're 6 hours long and they're blacked out at home, but their parents can't afford to bring them to a game. Like, what the hell is someone supposed to do? Are they supposed to climb the green monster, vault over the other side, and then land in the field like Drew Barrymore? Like, how are people supposed to take their kids to games? And if a kid doesn't become a fan as a kid, the likelihood of them becoming a fan as an adult is so low. Like, the reason I'm a fan is because I've been a fan since before I can remember. Not because I suddenly became a fan in my 20s. Like, I don't think it works that way for baseball. And part of that is the stats and part of it's the nostalgia, but I don't think that people just become MLB fans in their 20s. Like, I think you have to be a fan from your childhood, because there's so much childhood magic and nostalgia wrapped up in being a baseball fan. Like, remembering what it felt like to be a kid, seeing Fenway Park for the first time. Like, I think about that every single time I walk in to Fenway Park. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. Even on the weeks when I would be there every single day in a row, whenever I walk into Fenway, I take a minute for myself and I'm like, oh my God, I still can't believe this is a real place.
I'm the same way. Gabrielle. I mean, I call myself a little bit of a fan, but I think with my story makes me more of a fan than maybe some others. But I followed the Red Sox since I was 7. And before immigrating to the States from Colombia, my dream was always to one day make it into Fenway Park and be there for a game. So I can totally relate to that. I think my first game was actually against the Indians. Well, the former Cleveland Indians. And it was back in, 2007. So that whole entire season, I made it an effort to make sure that I kept coming back no matter what it took. And I was picking up extra shifts at my retail job, bagging groceries. I was making sure that I was putting more hours of bagging groceries so I can go back and see it at Fenway Park and be able to be there for a game. So I can totally relate to that. But on another subject, and picking up the energy here a little bit in the room, if you ever feel low of energy, just need a little bit of focus, or just a little pick me up in the afternoon, head over to shockedenergy.com. That's right, Shocked Energy is one of our sponsors of the show. Head over to shockedenergy.com and use the code CGSN, as in Couch Guy Sports Network. Get 10% off of your order today. Healthy flavors, healthy formulas, making sure that you don't overuse your caffeine needs, with about 180 milligrams of caffeine in their flavors. Their green apple flavored box, as well as their watermelon flavored box, are phenomenal. I've tried them both personally. Highly recommend. So like I said, head over to shockedenergy.com. Get 10% off your order today. They ship anywhere, so don't worry about there being a potential blackout zone. They're not the MLB. They got their shit together, unlike the MLB. And just get 10% off. Hey, listen, 10% off in this economy goes a long way. Can help you potentially get maybe 2 additional gallons to your gas tank today. Moving on. It's been a topic that we've been talking about lately in the past 3 episodes of the podcast. Real quick, just a name. So we all want Rob Manfred out, right? What is one name besides Gabrielle Starr that comes to mind to replace Rob Manfred? Gabrielle, I give it off to you because I know you're going to run. And then over to Al and then Sam.
Well, I will give you the name that I like. And it also happens to be a name that I have heard from some baseball execs, and that is Theo Epstein.
I have said that name too. Yes, love it.
And I will tell you.
And I've
exactly
said another name,
but
but I'll keep that to towards the end of the episode here.
I was at a work dinner about a month ago, and I was talking to somebody very high up in certain baseball circles.
Give us the name.
Yeah.
Oh, say the name.
This Nichelato will hack his Twitter account like Jeff Kazan.
My favorite thing is when people are like, well, reveal your source. It's like, well, if I revealed my source, then I wouldn't have that source anymore.
Exactly.
That's like not how sources work. So,
Yep.
not you, just like people on Twitter will be like, well, prove it. It's like, I can't, that's anonymous sources are sources for a reason because they know
Sources
you
for a
won't reveal
reason.
them.
Exactly.
So I'm at this dinner and we're talking about the lockout, and I said, give it to me straight. And this is a person who knows Manfred and Bud Selig personally. I said, would this be happening under Bud Selig? And he said, no, because Bud Selig actually likes baseball. So that's your first tidbit. And the second is, so then I said, so he said, but they can't get rid of Manfred during the lockout because then it gives them, it's like a total blow to their power. You know, like they look weak if they get, which I don't think they were ever actually going to. But the thing is, Manfred knows that he's on borrowed time because he is an absurd failure as a commissioner. And he was never a popular vote to begin with. It took like multiple rounds of voting just for him to get the minimum number to be elected commissioner in the first place. Anyway, so then I said, so why'd they even elect him in the first place? They said he had labor experience, blah, blah, blah. They said, but the difference is he was on a long list when they were replacing Selig. So now they have a list of one, and it's Theo Epstein.
I like it.
Follow that up, Al.
That's
follow
my
it up.
scoop.
Yeah, follow that up.
Give us a better name. Do it, Al. You could do it. Come on, dude. What the heck?
I can give you a name.
Who would that be?
Sam Edwards.
Hey, let's go, baby. Hey, my number one fan. Hey, I
know this isn't going to happen, but I had Theo Epstein in mind. Thanks, Gabrielle. So the other name that I'm going to throw out there, again, it's a crazy name. What about Tony Clark? Tony Clark's a guy. You think about it. Hold on. You think about it, though, right? Hold on. You think about it, right? He's a guy that's played in the MLB. He's a guy that's the executive director for the MLB PA. He knows how to work with negotiations and everything else. Now, I'm not saying he's saying Theo Epstein because Epstein's the clear number one choice. But if you need a guy that's at least been around and knows the players and know what can be good for the game, Tony Clark's not a terrible option.
Okay.
He's not a terrible option, but I don't think he ever I don't think he ever comes close to having. Like I totally see what you're saying, but I just don't think he gets the support.
I agree.
And also because he's a former player, the owners are never, I mean, just think about what we just witnessed for 3 months.
Yep.
The owners are never going to put otherwise I'd be like Curtis Granderson for commissioner.
That's not a bad one either.
Because I love Curtis Granderson. I think he'd be amazing. But it has to be a guy who both loves baseball, so the players trust him, but also is really good with the business side. And I think that's why Theo, and it's also why Manfred put Theo in the commissioner's office when he left the Cubs, because it's like a keep your friends close, enemies closer situation.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
But the only thing that's going to backfire is Manfred knows his days are numbered, and now Theo has experience in the commissioner's office. So
Sam, what is a name that you have in mind?
Theo Epstein's the only name I've really heard. I don't have another. I don't know. Derek Jeter. I don't know.
Wow, at least I tried. At least I gave an honest effort. Where's your effort, Edwards?
I'm gonna.
The baseball guy on the network with the baseball podcast
right?
decides
You're the one who asked me to join. I didn't ask to join. You asked me to join. Anyways, I think Manfred's doing a great job. I think that
Sam's a plant. Sam's like the human. Sam's the human version of a Manfred's burner account.
He's doing a great job for the job that he has. And the reason I say that is because, his job is to get smashed by the fans, smashed by the players, and to do whatever the owners want him to do. I think he's just a straight up puppet. I think he does exactly what he's supposed to do because, you got Al going, F Manfred. It's exactly what they're looking for because then immediately owners are not in the spotlight besides Steve Cohen, who's definitely, who also loves baseball. But all the other owners are just not in the spotlight at all. They're not on social media. They don't need to be. They're just richer than that. They don't even need to be. They just need somebody
John
that's
Henry's
take
like
the
in
shots.
London, just eating gelato in the streets of London.
Yeah, he's got this is side hustle.
So
okay? Everybody's got a side hustle. These owners have decided baseball is going to be their side hustle, and that's it. That's it.
Sam, Rob Manfred is the clown at the carnival that is in the dunk tank, and he's continuously getting dunked. That is who he is.
Listen, I'm not saying I don't hate him.
And the owners are the ones that locked him in there.
Yeah,
and handed everybody the. I feel for him, but at the same time, the owners aren't the ones being like, go out there and call the World Series trophy a piece of metal. Like, part of it's on him.
Sure, absolutely.
I do feel for him because he is the owner's punching bag. Like, he's the scapegoat. But at the same time, there's plenty of this that he's doing himself.
Yeah.
And like, he is their mouthpiece, but he's also not. He's supposed to be the person that bridges the gap. And that's what Selig did because he loved baseball. And I don't think Manfred has ever shown any appreciation for baseball. No. And that's why the players never liked him.
I mean,
but he's also terrible on the microphone.
The thing with Manfred right now is that he runs baseball as like he wishes that he was running his own self-started business, which is where he's going completely wrong. For me, there's two quick names that I can think of. One of them being Dick Eversole. I think the guy is extremely passionate about baseball and truly loves the sport, can bring that kind of sense of why people should fall in love with the sport. But another name that I think people disregard quickly, that could be a transitional period, doesn't mean that he should be a permanent commissioner, but it's a transitional role. It's former owner of the Texas Rangers and former president of the United States.
Oh, good
George
Lord.
Bush. The only reason why I think
baseball.
the only reason why this guy could be a good transitional period here is because in the MLB front office, that authority figure is no longer there. People are quickly thinking of Rob Manfred as just this clown to get by that unfortunately has to authorize decisions, while Bush, unfortunately, led a country through a crisis. It's actually much more of a actual political figure there that can be respected, but also has the financial background to actually think of what are some other possibilities here that both players and the association itself can actually benefit from, rather than just continuing to think of it as like what we've been talking about here, just, stats, finding boring avenues to the game and kind of killing the game. It would be
a very American thing to have a war criminal as the commissioner.
Oh, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And I mean, mind you, I'm aware the majority of the owners of majority of the organizations in MLB are Democratic, but it wouldn't hurt.
No, come on. They're billionaires. Most of them are.
It wouldn't hurt just as a quick, just as a quick transitional period, just a quick 2 to 3 years to clean house, and then let somebody else with a brighter mind come in and actually take over, somebody like Theo Epstein that could quickly take over. But my immediate opinion is Theo Epstein. Right after that is Dick Eversole. Right, you
saved yourself at the very end. You were going steadily downhill. Then you pulled a 180 and you went back up. You saved yourself. Good job.
I gave some specifics. Stop cutting me off. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. But you're acting like Rob Manfred right now, just pledging to have that authority.
Coming from the king of cutting off? Are you kidding me?
But quickly, before Gabrielle goes, Gabrielle, if you can just quickly plug your socials here. Again, people, you should be following her. And if you're not following her, you don't love baseball. That's all I know.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm sorry. It's such a hectic night for me.
No worries.
I'm at GFSTARR1 on Twitter. You probably already have me blocked or muted for tweeting too much. And you can find my writing on Fansided and Go with the Game. And I'm on TikTok and Instagram and all those things.
Perfect. Gabrielle, it's been a pleasure having you on. We look forward to having you on hopefully sometime soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Enjoy your night, and
have a good
can't
night.
wait to hopefully run into you in Fenway.
Yeah, of
Sox.
course. Let me know when you're there. I'm there a lot.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Gabrielle. All right. So to continue on to the topics of the night, just real quick, before we wrap up the show and before we get onto our Manscaped fantastic ad read that I love to do, Red Sox, we need to talk about some free agency moves that we need to see, because as excited as we are for the season, I'm not super excited with what we have on the roster. And I know that we need to make some moves. I like our roster, but I'm not super excited about it. I want improvement. What are some moves that you guys would love to see, that your number one move and your sleeper move? That's all I want to know. Al, real quick, over to you, sir.
The big move that I think that they should go for, and I've talked myself more into it, is Carlos Correa. I mean, you think about it right now. Think about this. Xander Bogaerts is probably going to shift positions in a couple of years. That's probably going to happen. You have Marcelo Meyer down in the minor leagues. He was your number 4 overall draft pick in 2021. He's not going to be ready for at least another 3 to 5 years, you would think. He's only 18 years old. He's a high school kid.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that guy in place, by the way, people forget this. Alex Cora loves Carlos Correa. They have a very, very good relationship. And you know that the Yankees are probably going to make a move. There's the rumor that they're going after Freddie Freeman, and it's down to the Yankees and the Braves. So if the Yankees are going to get a star to upgrade their roster and get another left-handed bat in the lineup, why not bring in a guy on the right deal? I don't think he should get $350 for 10. I'm saying that right now.
No.
But if you can get him for, say, like 10 for $275 or even $250, get that guy. And I know you're probably not, but get that guy in here, have him in the middle of your lineup, and have a guy that you can realistically say, okay, this guy's going to be here for the next at least 3 to 5 years. Now, if you don't get him, the underrated one, same position, Trevor Story, a guy that can hit very well. He's proven that he can hit in Colorado. The stats are a little inflated because the ball travels in Colorado. We know that. But if you can get another shortstop in there to bridge that gap between Meyer and, Bogaerts when he has to eventually change positions or, God forbid, leaves, then at least you have that backup plan in place.
And that's funny because that was a move. Trevor Story was a move that I mentioned towards the half point of the season last year. And people were like, I mean, you have Bogaerts in there. You don't really need another shortstopper. But the more you think about it right now, the more that, people are starting to think like, Bogaerts can quickly transition to another role or to another position within the team. You kind of need to fulfill that role. And there's nobody else better right now in free agency that could do it other than Trevor Story. Sam, what about you?
Yeah. Kyle Schwarber is my go-to these days. Kyle Schwarber or Seiya Suzuki for me. Seiya Suzuki would be really dope, especially if his bat turns up like we hope it's going to. I love Schwarber. I love him on the team. I think the changes Bobby Dahlbeck made to his swing were really solid, and he kind of showed he was striking out a lot less. And that's all you really need for a guy like Bobby Dahlbeck, because he friggin' crushes the ball whenever he touches it. So I would love to see, nonetheless, I would love to see Schwarber stay, especially because I'm not sure JD is going to stay after this year. So you could easily shift either Dahlbeck or Schwarber, most likely Schwarber, to DH in that scenario. And I would really like that. I think Seiya Suzuki would be really, really, really cool, especially because that would mean probably that JBJ doesn't have to play every single day, which I'm hoping that his bat is going to rebound, but it's not something you want in your lineup every single day. So Seiya Suzuki would be really cool. Probably put him in right field. I've heard he's got a really good arm. So that would be really cool. Obviously, you always want more pitching, specifically relief pitching. There's a couple guys that I would really like. I did a playing GM series and going through that. I wish I had my sheet in front of me for what I would do if I was Chaim Bloom. But I want to say Ryan Tepera was one of my top options for relief. He had an extremely underrated season as a reliever. His strikeout percentage was insane. And I would love to see them go after a guy like that for the bullpen, because I'm not super confident, unless we're putting Whitlock in the closer role, which would be cool, but I would rather be able to use him as a firearm for multiple innings and just use him in the most valuable way possible. But Schwarber, Seiya Suzuki, that's what I'm sticking to.
Nice. Very nice. I agree. Kyle Schwarber is my number one, immediate move that I think we need
Nice.
to stand by. I think he embraced the Boston culture, the organization itself. He had very good chemistry with the rest of the locker room. You don't need to kind of ruin what you already have there. So I definitely agree with the Kyle Schwarber signing. I think a potential sleeper move that nobody has thought of, maybe because there haven't been any reporting linking his name to Boston at all, but that could be a potential Hein Bloom kind of move to make in the right contract setting. Keep this in mind. Just keep that in mind. The right contract has to come into place. It's somebody like Kershaw. While I understand that Kershaw is very injury prone, has had his tough years as of late, but if you think of a healthy Kershaw in a rotation that involves Nathan Eovaldi, Chris Sale, and Nick Pivetta, that should get your rocks freaking feeling real nice right now. I'm just saying, that should kick your rocks right now. Get Kershaw on a deal that's, let's say, I'm just going to throw a figure there, like 3 years, $80 million. It might be a little bit of a pay cut for the guy, but for somebody that's got maybe another 5-6 years on the league before he calls it a day after all these injuries that he suffered, that might not be a bad deal to go out of the league in itself and potentially just end his days in a Red Sox uniform. Additional to that, you kind of need that person that brings that fire to the rotation. Aside of Chris Sale, which we all know he's a very fiery person, you just lost Erod, and that was somebody that kind of brought that emotion into the pitching rotation. Kershaw brings that for you, and he knows the majority of rotations in the MLB in itself to know what to bring to the Red Sox uniform and to the organization that will make him a perfect fit for that rotation. I think that's a name that we should probably be thinking of, should probably be welcoming, especially in the Red Sox uniform.
I would definitely rather Kershaw than Correa at their prospective contracts. I don't think
personally
Correa's getting less than he's not getting less than Seager. He's just not.
I think if you're going after Correa and you're Hein Bloom, the most you should be looking to offer, just to be safe, especially in this state of economics that we're living in, is probably a 5-year deal for about 150. That's probably the most you should be looking at.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't even think it's worth bothering with Correa because I just think, he's got more than enough teams most likely going for him. So,
But last but not least, to kind of quickly wrap up the episode here, Al, I know you got to get going and all that stuff, but the Chicago Bears have decided to trade Khalil Mack over to the Chargers. What a pathetic move done by Chicago. Chicago will always ball out in itself.
What are the Bears doing?
What's that?
What are the Bears doing? Second and a fifth for Khalil Mack?
Listen, I'll say this. The Bears are missing some good news. They're no longer the good news Bears. But you know who are the good news Bears?
I think I know where you're going.
And who has exciting news?
I think I know.
The exciting news are coming from across by our friends over at Manscaped, who just launched their 4th-generation performance package. This ultimate package includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. The 4.0. Manscaped are the leaders in male grooming, have done it again, and make your grooming game going to the next level. Join the 4 million man worldwide who trust Manscaped with the new performance package 4.0 by going to Manscaped for 20% off your order today, free shipping with the code CouchGuy20. Many of you have heard the story about our previous host of the show, Mr. Nick Quaglia, nipping his beautiful Italian jewel salami in the shower because the guy just didn't know how to trim his balls. And man, I don't know what else to feel but sad for this fantastic looking creature that Nick Quaglia is. The performance package 4.0 by Manscaped has arrived, and oh man, was it worth the wait. Inside this package, you will find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Wit Whacker, the ear and nose hair trimmer, crop preserver, ball deodorant, crop reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, which are extremely comfy, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. First off, the new performance package 4.0 includes the new lawnmower, a trimmer that is insane, dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever. Yes, I did say it, and I'll say it again. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on and off switch that can engage travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn on a 4,000 LED spotlight when needed for a more precise shave. Oh, and did I mention the trimmer is also waterproof? You thought that was good, but wanted to take your grooming game even further to the next level? The Performance 4.0 also includes the weed whacker to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ears. The weed whacker is also waterproof, uses a 4,000 RPM motor power, 360-degree rotatory dual blade system. You can say that again. That's a mouthful. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which help prevent nicks, snags, and tucks in those delicate holes. Seal the deal with Manscaped's liquid formulation, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant before leaving the house, and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner for a mid-game ball check. Trust me when I say this, fellas, you balls, well, thank you. Manscaped even threw in there 2 free gifts to their Performance 4.0, Manscaped boxers and the Shed travel bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to the next level. Like I said, get 20% off your order today. Free shipping with a code CouchGuy20 at manscaped.com. That's, again, 20% off, free shipping, CouchGuy20 at manscaped.com. Your balls have been through enough this past year, much like all of us in the past 99 days with the MLB lockout. Treat them with the best tools for the job at manscaped.com. With just right before we wrap up this episode, free agency as well in the NFL. Moves happening right now. If you are Bill Belichick and you know that you desperately need a wide receiver one right now, who is your number one target out of the following 3 options? Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, and Allen Robinson.
I'll answer this really quick, then I do have to hop off.
Yes, sir.
Short-term Juju, because he's 25. He's coming back from a bounce-back season. He's not going to stay in Pittsburgh because they're going through a whole rebuild with Big Ben retiring and everything else. Long-term, Allen Robinson, he needs a fresh start. He's a guy that you can bring in on a 3 or 4 year deal. You can bring him in for a reasonably affordable cost. Yeah.
Okay. I know little to nothing about anything. But what I do know is, Allen Robinson would definitely be the option I probably would go for as well. Just piggyback off of Al there.
Yeah. No, I love Allen Robinson. I definitely agree. I think he definitely needs a fresh start, especially after all the nightmares that he's gone through in Chicago. I'm a big Amari Cooper guy. I think he's done a phenomenal job with the Dallas Cowboys, but I think he needs also a fresh scenery. And I think with the Patriots and somebody as offensive-minded as Bill Belichick is, could potentially bring him to that next game where he could finally be at a Super Bowl, which the guy definitely deserves to have a ring by now. With that said, Sam, it's been a pleasure having you on the show tonight. Look forward to having you on sometime later on this season as we go through the MLB and everything else in between. Sam, plug in your socials, man. Where can people find you?
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Diego. Baseball's back and I'm hyped. Go follow me at StellarSam44 and follow my podcast Around the Diamond. It's at AroundPod on Twitter. It's going to be a blast of an MLB season and I can't wait. And just join me on the journey. It's going to be a blast.
I mean, you're basically going to end up having to start doing daily episodes because that's just how much emotion is happening right now to baseball. That's
insane. Once the moves start dropping, I swear I'm already stressed out because we're like in the middle of a series right now, and which is going great. Go check out our podcast, absolutely. But the moves are going to start dropping, and I'm going to have to turn it up into overdrive before the season happens because I got to get a lot done.
Absolutely. As always, you can follow our show on Twitter at CGS Boston Pod. You can make sure to also follow the network at Couch Guy Sports on Twitter. Make sure to check out their content as well on a daily basis. Baseball, football, basketball, college sports, all sorts of things coming down from Couch Guy Sports. Make sure to check out our partners over at Ravon Sports, which we might have baseball content coming up to that app. So you might hear voices like Sam Edwards and some of the other people on the network. As always, Diego Galvis, Couch Guy Sports Podcast, episode 2. 245. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next week, see you guys again.